Okay, I think we're going to begin now. I want to welcome everyone to today's how-to demonstration of PO consolidation within our iPurchase solution. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Today we're going to discuss how iPurchase has the functionality to consolidate multiple requisitions into one purchase order. So let's jump right into the system and start with the demonstration of how to create a PO consolidation in iPurchase. So we are going to start at the requisition inquiry screen, and we're just going to show that I have 3 requisitions here on the top here that are all from the same supplier. So you're allowed to choose any fields within the header of the system for PO consolidation. So that's where we're actually going to start now, is we are going to go into the admin section, and we're going to go to the system settings. There are 4 system settings for PO consolidation. The first one is allow consolidation, and this setting turns on the PO consolidation functionality or turns it off. It's a true-false setting. That's all you would use is true to turn it on, or false to turn it off. The second setting I want to discuss is PO breakbind. And what PO breakbind is, and we'll scroll down to the bottom here just to show you what's in the system now. So what my demo system is showing is that the vendor or the supplier is the only thing required to be the same in the header of a requisition to do a PO consolidation. So we're going to go back to the requisition first. And all the header information is this top information on the top of a requisition in iPurchase. So any of these fields can be used for the PO break-by setting for PO consolidation. So that means you can make it have, they all have to have the same site, or the same originator, maybe the same buyer. Whatever your company uses or would like to use for the consolidation functionality in iPurchase, they can add to this system setting, PO break-by, and then all of those fields would be required to be the same for you to have the ability to consolidate those requisitions into one purchase order. There's the next setting I'm going to discuss, excuse me, is allow a batch PO. An allow batch PO has 6 settings: false, true, always, consolidate, blank, and then there's a mixture of all of them. I am going to get into more detail about this setting and what the definition of these values are when I get to the supplier maintenance screen. The last setting is batch create PO groups. And what this setting allows is you add people or groups to this setting for them to have the ability to create requisitions to be consolidated into one purchase order. So allow consolidation just turns on the functionality, and then you have to add people to this setting in order for them to have the ability to do the PO consolidation. So it's another security setting. Right now in my demo system, there's an asterisk, which means everyone has the ability. You can put group names or just usernames in this system setting also. So these system settings also are related to fields in the system. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my iPurchase menu here, and I'm going to go to supplier maintenance. And I'm going to pick CDW because that's the supplier I'm using today for our demonstrations. So I thought it would be easier to understand the system settings or the settings within the supplier maintenance screens for the requisitions that I've already created. So I'm going to go to this other tab. And you'll notice there's a drop down, true, true consolidate, true always consolidate, false, false consolidate, false always, and then there's blank. So if we read the definitions of these values here, so blank says that this supplier would use the allow batch PO setting in the system settings. So that I just showed you that system setting. So that's a global setting for the whole iPurchase solution. You can then take each supplier that you want and change it based on that supplier. So you can leave this blank, which would use the system setting, or you can use true, which means the create PO now field is unchecked by default. You can use false, which means the create PO now is checked by default. So true means it's unchecked. False means it is checked. You do not want the create net PO now checked if you want to consolidate the purchase or the requisitions into a PO, because you have to get those requisitions approved. And once they're approved, then you would create the purchase order. You don't want to automatically create the purchase order, which usually happens when a requisition is approved with an iPurchase. Then there is the consolidate value, which says the allow PO consolidation field is checked by default. So as you can see, CDW is set to true, always consolidate, which means create PO now field is unchecked. Always means the create PO now is disabled and cannot be changed. Consolidate says that the allow PO consolidation is checked by default. So if I go back into the requisition that I was just showing you, you can see here that the allow PO consolidation field is checked. If I go to the approved reject tab, you can see that the create PO now is unchecked or no, which is the same value. And I can't change this. It's disabled by default. And that's all because this supplier, CDW, is set to allow batch PO true, always consolidate. That's how the system settings are related to the fields on a requisition. So now let's go back into the requisitions here, and let's discuss what we're seeing on the screen. So this is all your header information in the top, and then you have your line item. I want you to take notice of the line items because I want to prove to you that when we do the consolidation, that all of these line items will end up on one purchase order. Now, the first requisition that you create for the PO consolidation function will be the primary requisition. It will use all the header, the purchase order will use all the header information from that primary requisition. But all of the master comments and the notes and attachments will all be included in that purchase order from all the requisitions that you're going to use to consolidate. So let's go back to the header, and you'll notice that this one is for a power cord, and it's for $2,025. Now, instead of me signing out, signing in, signing out, signing in to get this requisition approved, I'm just going to emergency approve this. So this is just based on time. Usually it would go through the approval process, and then it would be on hold until you batch approved, until you batch created a PO for these three requisitions. And I'm going to show you that. So let's approve this requisition. We'll go back to requisition inquiry, move the filter here, and you'll notice that that rec now is pending. There's no PO number, even though it has been approved. Let's go into the second requisition here. Let's do the same thing. Emergency approved, click OK. You'll notice if I go back to the approval history, everything is checked now that it's approved. I'm going to go back to rec inquiry here, move the filter, and then you'll notice both of them are pending. The third one, which is actually the first requisition I created, I'm going to do the same exact approval. So I'm going to emergency approve this. It's okay. So now all three of the requisitions are now approved. Okay? And you'll notice that they're sitting here on the top of the page. The primary requisition, though, for this PO consolidation will be this first one for $10,000. And it will use all the header information. The purchase order, again, will use all the header information from this one requisition. So now to create a purchase order for these three requisitions, you would go in and you would just click one here, here, and here. okay? And now these three are all going to be consolidated into one purchase order. What you will do now is click the Consolidate PO button right here on the top of the page. Now, you only have this button if you are a user within the Batch Create PO group setting that I discussed earlier. If you are not a user in that setting, you will not have that button. You will not be able to consolidate requisitions into one purchase order. So that's another, so that's another button or field, let's say, that is related to a system setting for you to be allowed to create a PO consolidation within the iPurchase solution. So now let's click the button and see what happens. So we click the Consolidate button, ask me for my password again. So I would enter my password again and I would click OK. Once I click OK, the system is going to run now. It's going to take about, I would say between 15 and 25 seconds to actually take those requisitions and consolidate them into a purchase order. Post a purchase order in your QAD system, and then be able to view it with an iPurchase. Now you see that they all have the same purchase order number. If I click on this, it shows me the little 1, 2, 3 bullet points here. It shows me that those are the three requisitions that were consolidated into PO 4030, and that 3908 requisition, which is the one I'm on right now, is the primary requisition. And again, we'll use the header fields on that rec for the header information on the purchase order. Okay. I can set up a supplier confirmation here, and this is that the PO is open still. If it was red, it would be closed. So now, right within iPurchase, I can go and I can click on this magnifying glass here, and it will bring me to PO Inquiry. What PO Inquiry allows me to do is now look at the purchase order and the line items that are that are connected to the same purchase order. So now you can see that the three line items that were on each one of those requisitions. So one line item was on each one of those requisitions is now consolidated and is now in or attached to one PO within iPurchase, and then created, sent to the supplier automatically, and is now in your QAD system. iPurchase is fully integrated with your QAD system, and that gives us the ability to do this type of functionality. You can also create change orders for this purchase order. But the way you would create a change order is you would have to go into the original requisition, create the change order in that requisition. If that requisition now has changed based on dollar amount or a certain field, and there's a new approval rule for that, you will have to the requisition will have to be reapproved. We'll go through the whole approval hierarchy, and once it's approved, it will be updated against this purchase order. You would have to do that in each one of these requisitions for the consolidated purchase order if you wanted to do a change order for all three line items on this example. That is the how-to video on how to create a PO consolidation within the iPurchase solution. If you would like more information or a private demo, we can do that for you. Please just send an email to sales@issgroup.net, and someone will get back to you shortly. I would like to thank you all for attending this webinar or demonstration today, and I hope to see everyone on future how-to demonstrations. Thank you again for attending.